This summer, in the cool apartments and villas of Dubai, behind the glass that holds the heat at bay, a great many of the city's residents are quietly wrestling with a decision. It is not a single dramatic event, not a law or a deadline or a headline, and you would not see it if you walked the malls or the corniches at night. It is happening privately, at kitchen tables and on the screens of phones, in the long internal conversations people have with themselves about the shape of their lives. But it is real, and it is unusually urgent this year, and what unites these thousands of separate deliberations is a single unsettling quality, that whichever way they fall, the decision is very hard to take back. This is the story of that choice, of why the extreme heat of this particular summer has sharpened it to a point, and of the genuine weight it carries, a weight that has less to do with drama than with the simple, sobering difficulty of undoing a life once it is built or abandoned. Let us name the decision plainly, because vagueness serves no one. For most of Dubai's modern history, the great majority of its residents have thought of the city as temporary. It is a place you go to for a while, to work and to earn and to save, with the understanding, usually unspoken, that one day you will move on, back home or onward to somewhere else. Dubai has always been a city of the 2-year plan, of the extended posting, of the chapter rather than the whole book, its enormous expatriate population forever cycling in and out. But increasingly, and this summer more sharply than ever, residents are confronting the question of whether to stop treating Dubai as temporary and instead commit to it permanently, to buy the home rather than rent it, to take the long-term residency visa, to enroll the children with no plan to leave, to sink the deep roots that turn a place you are staying into a place you are from, or, on the other side of the same question, to decide the opposite, that the time has come to leave for good, to pull up whatever roots have grown and go. Either way, it is a decision about permanence, about tying or untying one's future from this particular city. And it is that decision, made this summer under a sun of unusual ferocity, that so many cannot easily take back. It is worth appreciating how genuinely new this dilemma is for Dubai, because for most of the city's history, it barely existed. When Dubai was a place people came to for a few years and then left, there was no agonizing decision about permanence. Because permanence was never really on the table, the whole arrangement was understood to be temporary, and that very temporariness made it psychologically simple. You came, you worked, you left. But the city has changed, and the terms of the bargain have changed with it. The long-term residency programs, the maturing property market, the second and third generations of expatriate families who have now spent their whole lives there, the sheer depth and comfort of the life on offer, all of these have made permanence a real option in a way it never was before, and with that option comes, for the first time, a real and difficult choice. A resident today can genuinely decide to make Dubai their forever home in a way their predecessors could not, and precisely because that option is now real, so is the weight of choosing it. The city has in effect invited its residents to stop being visitors, and that invitation, flattering and tempting as it is, forces a decision that the old, frankly temporary Dubai never asked anyone to make. The freedom to commit is also the burden of having to choose. Why this summer, more than others? Because the heat has been extraordinary, and living through it has a way of forcing the question. This has been one of the most extreme Gulf summers in memory, with a vast dome of superheated air settling over the region for weeks, temperatures pushing toward and past 50 degrees Celsius in the hottest spots. The humidity off the warm Gulf making the felt heat more oppressive still. To endure a summer like this, month after month, essentially confined indoors, moving in short dashes between cooled boxes, the outdoors reduced to a hostile expanse to be crossed quickly, is to be reminded in the most visceral way of what it means to live here. And it naturally sharpens the deeper question lurking beneath the daily discomfort: do I want to tie my future, and perhaps my children's future, to a place where the summers are like this, and where, by every serious projection, they are becoming more extreme still? A mild season lets that question stay abstract. A summer like this one drags it into the open and demands an answer. The heat is not the only pressure sharpening the choice this summer, either, because it arrives alongside a cost of living that has been climbing relentlessly, and the two together press harder than either would alone. Rents in Dubai have surged in recent years, and the general cost of building a comfortable life there has risen with them. So that residents weighing whether to commit are doing so at a moment when the financial terms of that commitment are steeper than they used to be. To buy a home now is to buy into an expensive and fast-moving market. To raise children now is to face school fees and living costs that consume much of even a generous tax-free income. So the decision this summer is being made not in a vacuum, but at an intersection of pressures. The physical pressure of an extreme heat that makes the daily reality of the place vivid, and the financial pressure of a cost of living that makes the commitment more consequential and, for some, simply unaffordable. For a resident on the fence, a brutal summer and a punishing rent renewal arriving in the same few weeks can tip a long-deferred question into an urgent one, and the answer they reach in that pressured moment is one they will be living with for years. The convergence of these forces is part of why this particular summer has brought so many to the point of decision at once. To be fair to the decision, and to Dubai, there is a genuinely powerful case for committing, and it would be dishonest to pretend otherwise, or to paint the choice as obviously foolish. Dubai is by many measures a remarkable success, and its appeal is real. It is safe, orderly, and prosperous. It offers a tax-free income that can, for those who manage it well, build real wealth. It has been engineered, at extraordinary expense and with genuine ingenuity, to hold its brutal climate at bay, so that daily life proceeds in cooled comfort for those who can afford it. It has grown, not shrunk, year after year, its population climbing steadily, drawing ever more people who have looked at exactly this decision and chosen to stay. The introduction of long-term residency visas has for the first time offered a real measure of security and continuity to those who want it, softening the old anxiety of a life tied to a single job. For a great many people, committing to Dubai is not a leap of faith, but a rational response to a city that has delivered again and again on its promise of opportunity and comfort. To bet on Dubai is in one sense to bet on a proven track record of adapting to and thriving in conditions that would have seemed impossible not long ago. And yet, on the other side of the ledger, sits the reason the decision carries such weight, and it is the reason this channel exists to examine the climate. To commit permanently to Dubai is to make a long bet on the long-term habitability of a place that sits at the very frontier of survivable heat. The Gulf is warming faster than the global average, its extreme days multiplying. Its heat domes growing more frequent and more fierce, its summers stretching longer at both ends. The entire way of life that makes Dubai livable, the near total dependence on air conditioning and desalination, rests on an uninterrupted supply of energy and water, a bargain with the heat that holds only so long as the machines never stop. None of this means Dubai is doomed. It has proven extraordinarily capable, and it may well continue to adapt successfully for a long time to come. But it does mean that committing to Dubai permanently is a bet made under genuine uncertainty, a wager that a city already near the edge of what human beings can endure will remain livable and affordable and safe across the decades of a warming future that no one can fully foresee. That is a real bet with real stakes, and pretending it is a sure thing would be as dishonest as pretending it is a catastrophe. What makes the bet genuinely uncertain, rather than simply pessimistic, is that it hinges on a question no one can yet answer: how far adaptation can go. Dubai's whole existence is already a demonstration that human ingenuity can make a nominally uninhabitable place not just livable, but luxurious, and the optimistic case holds that this ingenuity will keep pace with the warming, that better cooling, cleaner energy, smarter design, and sheer wealth will allow the city to stay ahead of the heat indefinitely. The pessimistic case holds that there are limits to adaptation, that a point may come where the heat, the energy demand, the water demand, and the sheer cost of holding the climate at bay outrun even Dubai's formidable resources, or where the summers become so extreme and so long that the quality of life quietly erodes even if survival never does. The honest truth is that no one knows which case is right, because it depends on how much the world warms, on how fast the technology improves, on choices not yet made by governments and markets around the globe. And that is exactly what makes committing to Dubai a real bet rather than a foregone conclusion in either direction. A resident deciding this summer is, whether they think of it in these terms or not, placing a wager on the outcome of that open question, on the race between a warming climate and a city's capacity to out-engineer it. It is a race Dubai has been winning so far. Whether it keeps winning is the uncertainty at the heart of the whole decision. Now we arrive at the heart of the matter, the quality that gives the decision its particular weight, its irreversibility. Why is this a choice that cannot easily be taken back? In part, the answer is simply practical, and it applies to almost any major life decision. To commit to Dubai is to buy property, to invest years, to build a network of friends and colleagues and routines, to enroll children in schools and let them form the friendships and memories that root a childhood in a place. To unwind all of that later, if the decision comes to feel like a mistake, is enormously costly and painful, financially and emotionally. A life, once built somewhere, is not easily dismantled and reassembled elsewhere. And the opposite choice, the decision to leave, is equally hard to reverse, because to pull up those roots, to sell the home and withdraw the children and say the goodbyes and go, is a rupture that cannot simply be undone. If one changes one's mind, the life you leave does not wait for you, and the door does not always reopen. In the ordinary way of things, both committing and leaving are decisions that reshape a life in ways that resist reversal. There is a particular poignancy in the fact that the transient city, the place built precisely on the understanding that everyone is only passing through, is now becoming, for more and more of its residents, a place of permanent and weighty decisions. Dubai spent decades as a city where no choice felt final, where the very impermanence of everything was part of the appeal. A place you could try on without commitment. But a city cannot mature, cannot deepen, cannot accumulate the second generations and the long-settled families and the property owning permanent residents, without also acquiring, for the first time, the gravity of permanence, the possibility of choices that genuinely bind. In becoming a place, people can truly stay. Dubai has also become a place where the decision to stay or to go actually matters in a lasting way. This is, in a sense, a marker of the city's success, evidence that it has grown from a temporary posting into a real home for many. But it also means that its residents now carry a burden that the old Dubai never imposed, the burden of a decision that sticks. The lightness of the transient city has given way, for those who now face this choice, to the heaviness of a fork in the road that leads to genuinely different and largely irreversible futures. But there is a deeper sense of irreversibility here, and it is the one that gives the title its real edge, and it belongs specifically to the climate dimension of the choice. You can, in principle, leave a city. What you cannot do is reverse the warming of the planet against which the decision is made. The trajectory of the climate is, on any human timescale, a one-way street. The heat that is intensifying the Gulf summers will not, within the lifetimes of anyone making this decision, be undone. So when a resident chooses this summer to commit to Dubai for the long term, they are binding their future to a place whose defining challenge, the heat, is certain only to grow along a curve that cannot be bent back. The decision to commit is not merely hard to reverse in the practical sense. It is made against a backdrop that is itself irreversible, a future that will only get hotter, not cooler. That is what lends the choice its genuine gravity. It is not a bet that can be hedged by waiting for conditions to improve, because the underlying conditions are not going to improve. Whatever a resident decides, they are deciding in the face of a warming that will not reverse, and that gives even the most private and personal version of this choice a weight that reaches far beyond the individual. The stakes are heaviest, and the irreversibility most acute when children enter the picture, because then the decision is being made not only for oneself, but on behalf of someone who did not choose it and cannot unmake it. To commit to raising children in Dubai is to root the next generation in a city with two profound and permanent conditions attached. The first is the one this whole channel has explored, a climate at the frontier of survivable heat, growing more extreme across exactly the decades in which those children will grow up and build their own lives. The second is a condition peculiar to Dubai and the Gulf, that no matter how long they live there, no matter that they may be born there and know no other home, those children will never be able to become citizens, will always remain guests whose right to stay is conditional. So a parent deciding this summer to commit permanently to Dubai is making, on their children's behalf, a decision with two irreversible edges, binding them to a place that will never fully claim them in a climate that will never cool. It is a decision made with love and for good reasons, very often, but it is a heavy one to make for another person, and it is among the hardest of all to take back, because the years of a childhood, once spent, cannot be respent elsewhere. It is important, having laid all this out, to pull firmly back from the edge of alarmism, because the honest version of this story is not a prophecy of doom, and to present it as one would be a distortion. Dubai is not on the verge of becoming uninhabitable, and the residents committing to it this summer are not, for the most part, making a reckless or foolish choice. Millions of people live full, comfortable, prosperous lives in the Gulf, and the region's capacity to adapt to its climate has been, so far, genuinely impressive. The point is not that committing to Dubai is a mistake. The point is subtler and more honest than that. It is that this is a genuinely weighty decision, made under real uncertainty, about a place whose future carries unusual question marks, and that the extreme heat of this particular summer has stripped away the comfortable abstraction and forced many residents to actually confront it. The decision may well turn out wonderfully. It may turn out to be the making of a family's fortune and happiness. The honest observation is simply that it is consequential and hard to reverse, and that it deserves to be made with open eyes rather than on autopilot, which is precisely what a summer like this one compels. There is a way in which the decision facing Dubai's residents this summer is a small, early, sharply focused version of a decision that the whole warming world will increasingly have to face. And this is perhaps the deepest reason it is worth examining. As the climate changes, more and more people in more and more places will find themselves weighing exactly this kind of question: whether to commit to a place, to put down roots and build a future and raise children there, in the face of a changing climate whose long-term implications for that place are uncertain. Where to live, what to build, what to bet on, and how to weigh a place's present appeal against its climate future, these are becoming, slowly, some of the defining questions of the age. Dubai's residents are simply facing them early and vividly, because Dubai sits at the leading edge of the heat, where the future arrives first. The private deliberations happening this summer in those cooled apartments are, in miniature, a rehearsal of a reckoning that is coming, in time, for a great many more of us, in places that today still feel safely temperate. There is even a strange kind of clarity in facing the question where Dubai's residents face it, out in the open, impossible to ignore. In much of the world, the changing climate is still an abstraction, a matter of distant projections easy to set aside when deciding where to build a life. In Dubai, the stakes are written across the sky every summer in temperatures that cannot be argued with, which means residents there are at least making their decision with their eyes open, confronting directly what others can still pretend not to see. The people of Dubai are not choosing under an illusion that the climate is stable. They are choosing in full and unflinching view of what a hotter future actually looks like, which is perhaps the only honest way anyone, anywhere, will be able to choose from now on. So let us return, at the end, to the claim we began with. Are Dubai's residents making a decision this summer they cannot take back? In the honest sense, yes, though not as a single dramatic collective act. Across the city, in thousands of private deliberations, residents are confronting a genuinely weighty and hard-to-reverse choice about whether to tie their futures, and their children's, permanently to this remarkable and demanding place, or to leave it behind, and the extraordinary heat of this summer has sharpened that choice to a point it rarely reaches. The irreversibility is real in the practical difficulty of undoing a life once built or abandoned, and it is real in the deeper sense that the choice is made against a warming that will not itself be reversed. A future that will only grow hotter. None of this makes the decision wrong, and none of it makes Dubai's future certain in either direction. What it makes the decision is serious, the kind that deserves to be faced honestly rather than drifted into, a real fork in a real road. And that in the end, is the truest meaning of a decision you cannot take back, not that it is doomed, but that it is a bet placed on a future no one can yet see, in a city living, more than almost any other place, at the very edge of what that future will demand.